So, all right, wow, look at the. All right, I just looked at the time in my agenda here, and I didn't realize how long that last segment took. So, there were a couple things I was going to talk about, but I don't know. After I thought about it, it sounded more like it was going to just become preaching. So I wasn't really interested in talking about that. Plus, it kind of comes full circle with the next bit I'm going to talk about here anyway. So we'll just consider this like the wrap up segment, and then we'll call it a show. So just real quick, I mentioned a few weeks ago that I got invited to a couple honor societies. It turns out that I kind of missed the deadline to submit my application. Though I already said that the technical honor society, whatever that was called, I forget. I think it was like National Association. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But that was more focused towards technical degrees or diplomas. So what that translates to is like 2-year programs. And I think the only reason that I got swept into that is because in some aspect, MATC, my current school, still thinks that I'm in the IT program, even though I've already transferred into becoming a 4-year transfer student. There are some aspects that I still get emails talking about, like, hey, so you're in IT, talk about IT things. And it's like, I can't, I'm not really doing the IT thing anymore. But the other association, the Phi Theta Kappa, that was geared more towards like what I'm doing now. But the weekend, I should say, the weekend that I was gonna work on getting the application in and paying the entry fee and whatever, turned out to also be the same weekend that they were not taking applications anymore, which is no big deal. I mean, it'll be nice to have that membership, but something tells me that I'll probably have a chance to apply towards it, next semester, which I think would be a better choice anyway, because of the fact that their entry requirements, I think, are the fact that you have, I think it's 21 or 24 credits under your belt, which I don't quite have yet. Actually, after this semester's over, then I will have enough credits, and I'll also have hopefully a higher GPA to show to them as well. Like, I'm already at a 3.875, but now that I've dropped the English class and the science class, those grades will not apply. And I mean, at least right now, I'm holding at A's for both my sociology and history class. I just took another quiz in my sociology, and I think I'm at like 96%. So, doing pretty good in there. And hopefully I can keep it up throughout the rest of the semester, because I think we're at midterms right now, because I think both my teachers have told me that they had to post their midterm grades, which don't really mean anything. Like, they're not grades that go on your record or anything. They're just more like a reference. As my history teacher likes to say, it's just an indicator that if we're missing work or something like that we got to get off our asses and get that taken care of. But yeah, so we're pretty much at the halfway point for this semester. There's not really much else to say on that. I'm just kind of almost like in cruise control at this point. Like, I know what I got to do, and I'm just doing it. Excuse me. So the last thing that I want to talk about before I wrap up the show is in regards to a conversation that I had with a friend of mine. And this, at first this conversation ended up making me kind of angry. But after thinking about it, I realized that it actually can very, very heavily pertain to things I talk about on the show. So obviously I'm not going to mention names or anything like that, because I'm not here to out the person or, put them down or anything like that. But what we were talking about is that we were, I will say that this person does work with me, so that's about as far as I will go with that. And we were, we hang out during our lunch breaks. We sit together and BS or whatever, which is fine. But like two days this week, we ended up going somewhere for lunch. Now, it wasn't. Oh, okay, I'll actually bring my side of this into it a little bit. But my friend had to, leave to go get something to eat for lunch, and was like kind of stressed out about it. Was just sort of. I mean, I understand. Like, I don't like having to leave work, especially, we only get half an hour to do our lunch thing. So, the travel time, then you got to eat and all that. It's like your half hour is gone like that. But what the point I'm trying to make is that I was trying to explain to them that, if they followed like more of a routine, then they wouldn't have issues like, not being able to having to drive out for lunch. Like for me, obviously this, a lot of people are not going to jive with what I do, because of the fact that I essentially have the same thing for lunch every day. And like, I can't explain how I'm able to do that, because I know a lot of people think about having the same thing for lunch every day, or at least 5 days a week, and like they don't like that idea. For me though, like I don't know, I just am able to like turn my brain off to it. It's just, to me, it's just sustenance, especially at the job, because I learned very quickly that if I'm bringing like a 4-course meal that I'm going to be eating over the course of half an hour, I'm just going to stuff myself silly, and then I'm not going to be as productive. Which, I don't necessarily care about being productive at my job, but it's just, it just makes things easier when I'm not totally stuffed to the gills with food. Because all I want to do when I get to that point is I just want to take a nap. And, I still have like 3 hours to go on my shift, so nap's not happening anytime soon. But, so anyway, I've figured out, over the years that like, okay, if I bring, usually this much for lunch, it'll hold me over till the end of the shift. And then, maybe I can have a bit more of an extravagant meal when I get home. So, that's just what I do. And honestly, the way I time everything is that, so when lunchtime rolls around, I'm hungry enough that it doesn't matter that I'm having the same thing. I'm just hungry. I just got to satisfy the hunger and get back to work. That's pretty much all I'm doing. And I was trying to explain this to my friend. It's like, you should at least kind of develop some sort of routine when it comes to just a simple thing like your lunch, and then you won't have to worry about stuff like this. And then it kind of spiraled into them being concerned about like, well, I didn't get I forget what it was. It was something like they didn't have money to buy groceries or something, which just then started to, it just got me thinking about the fact that, like, I just always keep going back to the fact that, 10 years ago, roughly 10 years ago, which is funny because that was when I was this person's age, because they are, they're younger than me by quite a bit, about 10 years or so. So they're in their early 20s. And when I was in my early 20s, like, I was already on my own. I had a car. I had a place to live. And I was able to support myself. And I was doing that all by making half of what this person makes right now. So, it just kind of irked me that, like, they just didn't want to listen. And this is not me using the show as like some method of attack, because like I said, I'm not mentioning names or anything. But it's just like, why wouldn't you listen to someone that's actually succeeding at doing what they're doing? It's like, I live on my own. I have a car. I have a car payment on top of that. And I'm also dealing with student loans. and the student loans don't cover all of my tuition. So that's another bill that I have to deal with on top of all the other stuff like rent, utilities, food, keeping a roof over my head. And then after all of that, then I still also have extra disposable income to, do things like get stuff for the show, to be able to get a better camera for you guys to watch the show on, the microphone and stands and lights and all that. I'm able to do this because I have a routine. And I'm not saying that someone should be just locked into doing the same thing day after day after day. But what I am saying is that at least having a slight routine to your daily life will help you keep things organized. And if you're noticing that there are anomalies in your budget that prevent you from being able to do just the simple things like get groceries, or there are anomalies in your schedule that prevent you from making the trip to go get groceries, then those are the things that you then need to start focusing on to not necessarily eliminate them, but to keep them more under control. It's a guy that my friend is a guy, and he was talking about that he had to spend all this other money on other things. And I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to really reveal a lot about what goes on in his life, but it's just like he's spending a lot of money on stuff that, as I'm thinking about it, it's like maybe you shouldn't be spending that money on those things, because none of them are pertinent to keeping him afloat in life necessarily. It sounded more like it was just to keep other people in his life happy, which I'm all for. If that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. But I feel that while yes, it was probably just him, a moment for him to vent, I was also trying to just give him a little bit of advice to be like, hey dude, you see where I'm at right now? I'm doing all this and I've been doing it for a long time, and when I was your age I was still doing it and I wasn't even making as much as you do right now. So maybe you should listen to at least a couple tips I got for you. And he was just totally against it, wanting to make those adjustments so that might not have to worry about so much stuff, might not have to stress out so much. I mean, stress can be just a killer in life. I mean, it just affects everything. It affects your health, it affects your relationships, your social structure. It just wrecks things. It's just terrible. And I mean, for me, I was that way for a long time, because there were definitely moments that I got super stressed out about stuff. And the thing was that my issue, at least me personally, my issue was the fact that I kept making excuses for why things were happening to me. And what I should have been doing, and what I eventually realized I needed to do, was that I needed to make solutions. Figure out why these things were happening and then how I can fix them. So, for example, I mean, I try to keep my life sort of as an open book, because I don't really feel I have that much to hide. I figure if talking about things that have happened to me can help someone else, maybe prevent those things from happening to them, then I'm all for talking about it, So, for example, when I went through my bankruptcy, which was, what was that? 2009, I think, was when I officially signed the papers and it got on my record and all that, blah, 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 blah. But during that time, and I've mentioned this already on a previous episode. I talked all about it in pretty good detail. But, when I initially was done with that and my record was clean, but then at the same time, I had this, notch on my credit report that's going to stick with me for 7 years. It can be a very depressing time. You know, you just feel like you're the lowest of the low, and you don't have any options left, and all that. But it's the fact that you just gotta keep at it. You know, you can't give up. You just gotta keep trying. And I mean, you can't obviously go out and just be like, I'm just gonna do everything right at this moment. You know, you gotta start small. So, like for me, when I started to get like applications for credit cards, I took one. I didn't even care about the paperwork or the interest rates or anything, because I already knew that anything that was going to get offered to me at that point was going to be ridiculous. But I had to start somewhere. So, you know, I just got a tiny little $300 limit credit card, and I just use it sparingly. I mean, it's just, you got to keep using it, because, you know, then that shows that you're good about maintaining it, and you can have a balance and not let it get out of control, blah, 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 blah. But that's where I started. And then I knew that getting like an auto loan was a step up from that. And that's going to look really good as long as you maintain like those payments and you're good about paying things on time and all that, and you don't miss anything. It's just basically staying on top of that. And so I worked my way up there. And then, you know, because I did well on my payments, I mean, those payments, God, when I originally, because again, my options were very limited as to where I could go to get a car. I basically didn't have the option of getting new unless I was going to be making like $600 payments, which I mean, hell, even now I couldn't afford that. But so I knew I was probably going to have to go with used, and you know, the car was probably going to be somewhat old. I mean, when I bought my car, it was 10 years old at the time. And I already knew that my payments were going to be ridiculous no matter what. Mostly because like the interest is just going to be jacked up. And I was right, because for the first 2.5 years, I think, that I was making those payments, it was something like $270 or $80 or something like that, and half of that was interest. You know, wrap your head around that. It was ridiculous, just the amount that I was paying alone in interest. But I kept at it. I stuck with it, and I kept making my payments on time. Even when I was able to, I paid even more than the required amount. So sometimes I pay like $300 or $350 or whatever. And I just kept at it. And then when I actually went to sign up for an account at a credit union, because I just wanted to switch banks, that's all I was intending to do. They're looking over my information and they say like, hey, you've been actually staying on top of this, car payment. Maybe you should, maybe we can help you refinance that. I wasn't even expecting that. But that's like kind of what I'm getting at, is that eventually things will start to work in your favor as long as you keep at it, you know. And one of the ways that I kept at it is I just developed this routine. And it was just like, okay, every month, you know, rent gets paid, the utilities get paid, and I just budget all that ahead of time. And it's when I have money left over, then I think about, disposable income, like fun money, if you will. Same thing with my tax return. My tax return does not get factored into my budget because I consider that to be, kind of like an anything bundle of cash, I guess. It's like if I want to put it towards this, I can put it towards this. If I want to put it towards that, I can move towards that. Doesn't matter, because that's not automatically having to get dedicated to something. Sometimes, some years it's had to specifically go towards something like, oh crap, I'm really in the hole with this or something, or I have a bill that, it's just a few $100 more and then it's paid off. So I'm just like, all right, I'll put, part of my tax return towards that, and then I'll be cleared and I won't have to worry about it anymore. It's just a matter of just keeping control of everything. And like, that's what frustrated me about the conversation with my friend, because all he wanted to do was just make excuses. And I'm sitting here trying to give him solutions, and he just was, he got angry, he got mad because I was trying to help him. But I don't know, maybe sometimes when I try to help people, it comes across as me just saying like, you should do what I do, and that's the end of it. But if I do come across that way, it's because I've done it. I'm doing fine right now. Yeah, sure, there are months that are a little bit a little worse than others, but I still get through it. Like I went 2 weeks over the winter break and I didn't get paid any money. But did I get evicted? Did I end up being late on any of my payments for anything? Oh, because I planned ahead. I saw that could possibly happen based on what had happened before, and in order to be ready for that, I just prepared accordingly. That's all I had to do. So anyway, I think I'm trailing off a bit here. I don't know. I feel like I'm almost a little distracted at this point. But anyway, I think that's been enough for this show. So, hopefully what I talked about was helpful. I don't know. I guess you can let me know in the comments if I was just completely talking out of my ass, or if I don't know jack diddly squat, whatever. I'm ready to face the music when it comes to that kind of stuff. It happens. Everyone just has off weeks or whatever. This might be it for me. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up the show at this point. As I mentioned on the last show, I did get the dates for MGC, and I was a little bit off. It's actually the weekend of April 11th and 12th. So I think I said it was like the end of April. It's actually like the middle of April. And that's actually 3 weeks from now. So, if you are going to be in the Milwaukee area, let me know. As I said, it's the 11th and 12th of April. I will actually have like an extended weekend. I usually take a couple days off for that weekend, just because sometimes there are things that happen around that weekend that, friends that fly in early or whatever, we might hang out a little bit and whatever. So, if you're in the area and you want to hang out, let me know. So yeah, that's, again, 3 weeks from now. So I'll keep mentioning it, on however many shows I have until then. But, for now, this has been episode, where are we at? Session 2, episode 6 of The Road to Japan. My name is Nico, and I will catch you guys next time. Minasan, ganbatte.